an introduction to earth changes, and through that, my journey into and through responsible and sustainable tourism. So today I thought I'd talk about charity challenges. Fundraising is very much in the news at the moment, and this is a way that people often raise funds for their chosen charities, but it also can benefit communities abroad. So I personally worked for a charity challenge organisation. I worked in marketing, and I worked escorting the tours and managing the trips. And after I left the company, working full-time, I continued to be a tour guide for them voluntarily. And so I have had the great fortune to do many iconic trips, like hiking up Kilimanjaro and Machu Picchu and across the Sahara. And I've kayaked down the Zambezi, and I've trekked in the Himalayas, and got a great experience, obviously, of managing groups in those situations. And often these trips, you might be a bespoke group created specifically by an organisation, for example, a corporate or a particular home-based charity, and you come together in order to raise funds for a particular cause. Or otherwise, you might join what's called an open challenge. So you can be one individual and you just choose to do that sort of trip to raise funds, and you choose where to which charity your donations will go. Normally, you would raise them enough money to cover the trip costs and obviously contribution to charities. And sometimes trips don't have to be physical like that. One of the organisations we work with through Earth Changers in Malawi actually organises challenges which are both sporting, like cycling and trekking and running, but also in skill sharing. So it can benefit the local community that way. And so what tends to happen is people raise funds for a charity at home, and then through the cost of what they're doing and through working with local guides and local accommodation, and they often might visit a charity abroad that's, for example, sometimes they're twinned almost with sort of hospices and things like that. And so they'll make sure that a good proportion of income obviously goes to the destination and to the hosts who are helping host the group. So that's how those trips can benefit both charities at home and abroad. And quite often they're quite a long lead time to organise these sorts of trips. So if you are thinking you'd like to do something like this, quite often it's a year or more even. And so you might like to obviously decide where you want to go. If you're an organisation, you need a number of people involved in that process to decide where you want to do. And then people will spend a good few months fundraising, if not a year, and then obviously preparing for the trip. And sometimes when it's a physical challenge, you might like to get really active and fit and train during that time. So it's quite a lot of pressure actually on a tour manager like me in the past to be as fit as the participants, obviously, because when you're trying to make sure that a trip goes to plan, you've got to be the one that does make it up Kilimanjaro and manages to make sure everyone else is all right. So you can't be not fit in those circumstances. So, but in actual fact, it's not often the physical fitness or the physical challenge that actually becomes the challenge. It's really the emotional and the mental challenge of it. So I don't know if you've seen on TV quite often, comic relief type charity TV shows, and you'll see people really breaking down emotions, and it's very like that. It can be quite intense. A lot of people put a lot into these trips, and they really put in their blood, sweat, and tears to organise them and to train for them, and to put all their time and effort into it. And when it comes to the actual trip, then it's quite a sort of release of emotion for what they're doing. Often there's a very personal motivation involved for it. And so it can be quite a pressure cooker at times. And obviously when you've got a lot of people, the biggest trip I think I've done is 23 up Kilimanjaro. And so needless to say, they were all brilliant and everyone got on fantastically. But there are times when you're out of your comfort zone, you're tired, it's cold, or you might be at altitude or something like that, or even extremely hot, for example, in the Sahara. And it really does push you emotionally and mentally to deal with it. So maybe a little bit like lockdown in coronavirus times, it challenges us in ways that we don't necessarily expect. But for me, as a tour guide previously, that's what I really love to see, is actually people overcoming those hurdles. And people achieve so much more than they ever think they're going to be able to. and their own amazement at achieving it, and their own sense of pride and confidence that comes out of it, incredible. It takes them, forward in life to a level of confidence they never previously had. And also for me, seeing people connect with local people, because the local people are in their comfort zone, are in their place, are the local guides or what have you, and so they're helping people who are on the trips acclimatise and cope, and it's a really nice interaction to be able to see that. So that's a little bit about charity challenges. They're always new experiences. Every one I've done, I've learned from, and that's when travel can be really transformative as well, both for the hosts in the destination and for the guests that are doing it. So if you've never thought about doing a charity challenge, do. Particularly after coronavirus lockdown time, it's something you might like to do to raise funds for health initiatives, for example, and be able to travel at the same time when we can. So give it a thought. We do work with some charity organisations on the website, Malawi, Madagascar also. We do groups to Madagascar on different types of challenges, more like conservation related there. So give me a shout. Make sure you follow, like, subscribe, and keep up with Earth Changes. Thanks.